attention to something, but when it starts to create disorder in function, whether it's work, whether it's school, then we start to see that there's a problem potentially.
Right, and then could go for an evaluation. But Sean, to kind of piggyback on what you said, if you're asking, it depends on what you're asking the child to pay attention to. So if it's like an educational video that they don't really have much interest in, kids with ADHD are going to tend to like not be able to focus so well. But so I guess now it's a good time to talk about, I mean, basically, it's not really inattention, it's like it's regulating your attention more than lack of attention, and you'll pay more attention if you're interested in it.
I agree.
That's true. That's
I
true.
Totally agree.
That's true.
I kind of wanted to ask you the rate of like misdiagnosis. Like, how often do you see kids who were actually misdiagnosed as having ADHD?
Well, I can't really give you statistics on that, but I would say I do see it because sometimes people will come in and kids will come in and they've been diagnosed with ADHD, but maybe there's an underlying learning disability that wasn't identified, and that can make it hard to pay attention and focus if you really are having a hard time figuring out what's going on cognitively, understanding it, or if you've experienced a trauma or there's any disruption in the family. We also need to pay attention to that. Or sometimes depression, you can have problems with concentration, and anxiety. You can look a little hyper sometimes with that. So I've seen that happen, but some here and there. So that's a good question.
Interesting. I actually, when I was younger, I started school earlier than most of my peers. So I forgot how old I was, but I was in kindergarten, let's say. I was in kindergarten. And I was just really anxious and just up and running around all the time because I would finish my work easily and I would just go do something or find something to do. So immediately my teachers would be like, oh, they were trying to sit my mom down and say, like, we think your daughter has ADD or ADHD or something like that. They made me take like an IQ test and all this stuff, and it turns out that I just had a pretty high IQ, and I just would finish my work. So my mom would say, okay, give her more work, give her something else to do in order to like make sure that she's occupied. Because when I'm interested in something or when I'm given work, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna finish it. But once I'm done, like, where's the party? Like, what do I do now?
You're right.
Yeah.
It's so funny because I was the same exact way. When I was growing up, they were calling me the class clown. And I understood. I was called the class clown because after what I would get bored so easy. I was like, okay, I know that, I understand that. What's next? What's the next thing? And the teacher may be talking, and what she was talking about was boring, and something else was interesting, so I'm talking to someone else next to me.
Exactly.
So I was identified as the class clown, but now when I look at it, I just want to learn more, something different.
Well, still a class clown. But yes, So ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Health in Harlem on Whcr 90.3 FM New York. We're going to take our first break for the evening. You can call us and join in the conversation at 212-650-6903. That's 212-650-6903. We will be right back after this break. Stay with us.
WHCR 90.3 FM New York.
If you know the symptoms and get the facts, you'll know the signs of a heart attack. Women, listen to me, and when I'm done, if it sounds familiar, call 911.
Pain in your neck, chest,
arms or jaw,
shortness of breath.
Please tell us more. Cold sweats and nausea, tiredness.
It's time to take it
serious. Back pain, stomach pain, shortness of breath. Cold sweats, nausea, dizziness. If you know the symptoms and heed the signs, you'll be around for a long, long time. Women, listen to me, and when I'm done, if any sound familiar, call 911.
Learn a song that could save your life. Get a free download at womenshealth.gov/heart attack.
Women, listen to me, and when I'm done, if any sound familiar, call 911. If any sound familiar, call 911.
A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
911.
High rents and inadequate housing are issues that plague all of New York City, especially neighborhoods like Harlem. The number of rent-controlled housing units has decreased by 25% over the past 20 years. When the temperature drops below freezing, all tenants should have access to heat and hot water. Palante Harlem is a nonprofit organization that works to educate and organize tenants around housing issues. If you need help with a housing issue, or if you would like to volunteer with Palante Harlem, visit their website at palanteharlem.org or call 212-491-2541.
The Stanley Mirsky MD Educational Unit of the Mount Sinai Diabetes Center presents free diabetes education classes. Learn how to manage your diabetes and enjoy a better quality of life. Invite your friends and family to help you reach your goals. Prevent, control, thrive. Classes are Monday evenings at 6 p.m. and Tuesday mornings at 10 a.m. All classes are held at the CAM building, located at 17 East 102nd Street, between Madison and 5th Avenue. Classes are free, but you must register. To register, call 212-241-3422, option number 4.
WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
There are so many old wounds and scars. Keeping us apart. It's time for healing. Inside of you and me. Healing through us. Oh yeah. All the human family. Nation to nation. Nation to nation. Spirit and soul to soul. Open up your heart.
Welcome back to Health in Harlem, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Maurice Selby.
And this is Sean Shivers, Director of Food Nutrition at Harlem Hospital Center.
Oh, and this is Maurice Selby, a first-year resident at SUNY Downstate and Kings County Hospital Centers in Emergency Medicine. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we have with us Dr. Dorina Lisanics. She is a supervising psychologist and actually a clinical psychologist at Harlem Hospital Center, and we are talking about ADHD tonight, and very, very important topic. I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there that we're trying to clean up. I'm sorry, Miss Cole. You can introduce yourself.
Miss Ayana.
No worries. Hi, everyone. My name is Ayana. I'm a third-year student at Sophie Davis, trying to be a physician.
You will be a physician.
Well, I will be a physician.
All right,
Going
there we
to be
go.
a physician.
And getting back to our conversation, we talked about some of the signs and symptoms, and actually the spectrum of this disease is actually broken down into two categories: hyperactivity and inattention. Now, the thing is that you need for children 6 or more symptoms in order to diagnose and say that a person has this disorder. And then for adults, you need 5 or more. And just correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Lisanics, but this includes inability to pay attention and focus, losing track of things, disorganization. Some of the hyperactivity things, I guess, include being hyperactive. Anything else you would like to add?
Impulsiveness, blurting out things. And also, but you have to see these things across 2 different settings. It's not that it's just happening at home or just happening at school. And you've got to see these symptoms before the age of 12.
Before the age of 12.
Yeah, we just it used to be the age of 7, but we just have new criteria that came out in the past year or so, and it's before the age of 12.
Got it. So real quick, before we go to the next question, we have a caller. Caller, are you there?
Yes, I am, and I'm in the classroom.
Awesome.
Yeah, hey, Brother Selby, how you doing? I said Brother
Smiley.
Smiley, I'm sorry. I said Selby.
Good evening to Dr. Lasada.
Lisanics.
And, of course, you, Maurice, and Sean, you're in the background somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do this deliberately, okay?
Got it. Mm-hmm.
In my day, I found that things like commercials, the advertisement in general related to TV, the sounds of the city, and all those other things can be contributable. I'm not a doctor and I'm not a psychologist, but I'll tell you what my findings were. I turned off the TV. I enacted puzzles. I got some books on cause and effect, and all of my children are above genius.
That's good to hear.
What do you say? No, but I'm just putting it up. Now, I say that to say that in the interim, I went back to the dictionary myself. I went back when my children were in school. I couldn't help them, so I went back and I retrained myself.
Mm-hmm.
But in that process, I found that books on cause and effect, giving them from the beginner puzzles, which are 2 to 4 pieces or 6 pieces in most cases, and working them up into the 1,000 range. is what helped my children. They never had a moment.
So what's this, like a home remedy you put together?
Yeah,
you have but do you have a question for Dr. Lasonics?
I do.
Okay.
I want to ask the doctor, what is the relationship between, as I said, commercials, cartoons, and the other things that in the home that allows a child to then be classified as ADHD or whatever you want to term it out. You know, what is the relationship?
So I think that's a good question, actually. Can these things, such as media and influence a person's, or let's say a person has maybe a predisposition to hyperactivity disorder or ADHD, could something like this or some sort of stimulation, external stimulation, maybe bring this out of them or contribute to their states?
That's interesting.
Thank you for that question, Brother Smiley.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, that is an interesting question. I think, all of us would struggle with paying attention and focusing with all the different things that are going on in the city. If you're at home and you're just even trying to read a book, the phone's ringing, there's sirens outside, your neighbors are, making noises.
There's 1,000 different cable channels.
To distract. Yeah,
I know,
so
I'm terrible.
I think it's normal for all of us to kind of have to close things down, shut the TV off, shut the radio off, go into a quiet room.
All right. I'll hang up and listen because that's exactly it. You have to shut things down. All right.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Brother Smiley.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha. On that note, just from everything that's being said, and I don't know if I'm jumping the gun, when you're talking about external triggers, would you say that a child who is abused in the home, are they most likely to have this condition, would you say?
Well,
what would be risk factors, if any?
Unfortunately, what I've seen, and I think the research would show too, is kids with ADHD, especially hyperactivity, do have a higher risk of being abused. They're difficult to handle. It's difficult to parent just average children. They have short attention spans. But if it's really a severe problem, and you just, you've had a busy day at work or whatever, and you ask your child to do their homework, and they can't, sometimes parents don't understand, and they think they need more discipline. I think we were talking about this before the show. But really, children, I think all of us, like Brother Smiley was just brought up so cleverly, that we all need to create a quiet place. We can't expect our children to do the homework when the TV's on and there are a million people in the apartment. We've got to make a quiet place for them and make a routine for them and check their homework for them. Look at the homework packet, for these young children. I really think it's too much to expect them to just kind of come home and do it on their own in an environment that's not quiet and ready for it and helping them.
So can a child, I guess, be born, or, let's just say you said between the ages of 1 and 12, up to the age of 12. So can you be born with this condition?
Yes, there's no actual known cause for this condition. Okay. Kids are usually diagnosed between 1st and 2nd grade, and I think that's because, around 1st and 2nd grade, that's when you really have to sit down and do bookwork and pay attention. Kindergarten, there's still some leeway. But I do see kids diagnosed even in preschool. But mostly it's 1st or 2nd grade. Their grades are falling, and they're really just not able to relax like their peers are. But I said, there's no known cause.
Got you. Okay.
But with that said, there is a lot of research to support that being exposed to cigarette smoke while the mother is pregnant, so in utero, there's a higher rate of ADHD. But there may be other factors going on there too, so we can't be definitive. And also, if you have a relative who has ADHD, you are approximately 4 times more likely to have the condition yourself. So there's a strong genetic component.
True story. And I see with what Brother Smiley was saying, and I totally agree with Dr. Lasonics in saying that, yes, sometimes we can alter the environment, right, to get not only children, but even adults. When you're studying, to shut your phone off. That's like the first thing I do whenever I sit down to read and make sure that I get a good
do you
study
really shut
session.
Your phone
yeah,
off?
I'm dead serious. I shut my phone off. People get mad at me. People give me hell for it, but I do that. Shut the email down. But, there is evidence that there is a biochemical basis to this disease, right? And as Dr. Lasonic said, that one, looking at the genetic predispositions, right? It runs in families. That's one pattern, but also some of the medications that we use to address this disorder as well give some evidence that there could be some biochemical issues as far as what's happening in a person's brain. And with that said, you know, sometimes that might not be enough in terms of, you know, making a quiet area, making a quiet space. It might be able to help, but for a person that really, really has this disorder, you might need some sort of psychostimulant medications, which we're going to get to at some point, ladies and gentlemen.
So I'm just curious.
But this is something to consider, because I think sometimes we do that and you say, oh, this kid is just bad. He just doesn't listen, doesn't do this. But then that could be, you know, this the biochemical basis of this disease where they can't control it.
Because I'm just curious to know, because you both were saying that you needed to have your phone off. Certain things have to be off. You got to have that quiet space in order to study or to concentrate. And I realized with myself is that when I study or when I have to read something, something has to be playing, and it has to be like a light jazz, no words, but it has to be something like a light music. If it's totally quiet, I can't concentrate. If there's music playing with words, I can't concentrate. But if it's like a light jazz or something very light, I seem to comprehend when I'm reading much better.
That's interesting. I do that with like when I'm paper writing. So if I have like a long paper to write, I'll put some Jhené Aiko in the background, just have something playing that's nice. But when I'm reading, I feel like I need it to be more quiet, definitely. So I usually give my phone to like a friend, and I'm like, don't give this to me for the next like 45 minutes.
That's what's up.
I study to my attention span, which is really important.
Good habits. Keep up those.
Yeah. I try to study to my attention span. So I think when I was a first year at Sophie Davis, I had this really interesting chemistry professor, and he would say you need to study to your attention span, whether it's 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, and then you build up from there. So I built it up to about an hour. Not too great, but about an hour I can sit there and
That's
study.
better than me. We have another call on the line.
Yes, it's Brother
Smiley.
again, because I would like to speak to what Sean said.
Yeah.
One of the things that I recommend for those who do need music, I found that I could not do it to rock and roll or whatever. I had to have chamber music. This is for myself. When I was in college, I had to have chamber music.
Classical.
Or something like Sean said, I could do it with light jazz, but even light jazz would be disturbing. Chamber music, or I would have Bach and Beethoven playing in the background easily.
There's a study on that.
It would ease my study. So it is, it's something that I found in my personal life that helped me, but I don't know if that, is a recommendation for
We're actually going to get into treatments, after our next break, which is coming up very shortly. But one thing I do want to say again is to emphasize that, this can work for a number of individuals. And I think this is something that we can even try for people that do have ADHD and disorders with inattention or hyperactivity, something that we can definitely try. But we're also going to talk about other things that could be implemented to address some of these issues. All right. Thank you very much, Brother Smiley, again. He is the man. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Health in Harlem on WHCR 90.3 FM New York, the voice of Harlem. We will be right back after this break, and you can call us with any questions, comments, or concerns at 212-650-6903. That is 212-650-6903. You're listening to Health in Harlem, and we will be right back.
WHCR 90.3 FM New York.
Hi, I'm Vinny B of the Vinny B Showcase. Tune in every Thursday from 8 to 12 midnight for some solid cultural roots music and some sweet lovers rock. Also, informative interviews and giveaways. Right here on the Vinny B Showcase every Thursday, 8 to 12 midnight on WHCR 90.3 FM, Peace.
Tougher than water. Said I'm black. I'm tougher than water.
WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
Welcome back to Health in Harlem, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Maurice Selby.
And Mr. Sean.
Yeah, I got you, brother.
Oh, my bad. And Mr. Sean Shivers.
And you're listening to Health in Harlem on WHCR 90.3 FM New York, the voice of Harlem. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us tonight Dr. Dorina Lasonics. She is a clinical psychologist and actually a supervising psychologist at Harlem Hospital, and we are talking about ADHD tonight. We also have with us Miss Ayanna Cole. She is a burgeoning MD, third-year student here at the City College of New York and the Sophie Davis School of Biomedical Education, and actually going to be joining. Yeah, for real.
You caught all of that. That's good.
Yeah, man. And she's going to be joining the Health in Harlem family and be contributing to the show from week to week. So welcome, Miss Cole. And I have an announcement to make before we get back to our conversation. Harlem Hospital Center has opened a new state-of-the-art dental clinic in the Kuntz Pavilion. Brand new. In the Kuntz Pavilion, located at 15 West 136th Street. The clinic has 23 operatories that are equipped with x-ray units and modern dental chairs. The clinic also has 2 Panorex x-ray units, digital cephalometrics, and a 3D cone beam unit. This sounds dope, to say the least. This sounds awesome. And this is something, ladies and gentlemen, for you all in the Harlem community, to take advantage of. This state-of-the-art facility is there for you. Once again, the new dental clinic located in the Kuntz Pavilion, that is at 15 West 136th Street, and it has state-of-the-art equipment there, and the hours of operation are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Each day, so you can go in and get your work up there, get your dental health game on.
And one thing I will say,
as Dr. James King was saying,
and that's what I'm going to say, that Dr. James King and his physicians and his whole staff, they're very passionate at what they do.
True story.
Kudos, because I know that they've been pushing for this for years, trying to get this new dental clinic for the community. So please take advantage of it.
True story. All righty. And back to our conversation, ladies and gentlemen. Now, when we left before the last break, we were talking about certain things that can be done maybe to deal with potential inattention or hyperactivity or this disorder as a whole. And we mentioned making some modifications to the environment, right? So, dimming the lights or maybe shutting off the TV, closing the windows to decrease the amount of noise in the household or the apartment in order to help individuals cope with this disease and sort of settle down. But are there limits to this, Dr. Lasonics?
Yeah, I think there are limits to this, but what I wanted to say before that is when Brother Shelby and Sean, you were talking about how music helps you. You're not alone there. So if you go on YouTube, there's tons of videos with music for studying. It's classical or nature sounds. There's just a lot out there. And I think my theory is that it kind of helps bring your alertness up a little bit.
Yes.
If it's just completely quiet and, silent, quiet and silent, it might be harder for you to be alert enough to engage in the study.
Correct.
Got it. Good. Real quick, we have a caller on the line. Caller, are you there?
Hi, it's Valerie. Just calling to ask Dr. Lesnick to tell us the differences between diagnosing a child with ADHD and an adult. What kind of symptoms can you look for in an adult? Because someone may not have been diagnosed with ADHD as an adult.
Right. And so as I said, it's a chronic condition. So if you've got it in childhood, hopefully you'll get treatment and you'll learn coping skills to deal with this and function. Another thing is there's something called frontal lobe development. Prefrontal lobe development is like your executive functioning, your personal secretary that helps you learn how to organize and prioritize.
Okay.
That's developing until about the mid-20s. So that helps for going into adulthood. So people may seem like they have less ADHD at that point. But for adults, it comes up sometimes in relationships or in lack of fulfilling their potential career-wise. It's difficult to maybe hold down a job, a full-time job, and sustain attention, follow through with projects at work, follow directions. And so that's problems with work issues come up with adults. And then in relationships, we can talk about that later. Sometimes, do you want to talk about that now?
Yeah,
I think well. Because I'm thinking real
because
hard.
I'm more concerned.
I got a lot of questions popping up in my head.
And really about the subtlety, I think sometimes what we'll see in the media or on television shows is exactly what you described. This person, bouncing off the walls, or the extremely disorganized person. You see those apartment shows with the hoarders and stuff.
They're very anal, you know what I'm saying?
But how subtle can this be? And is this something that can potentially go undiagnosed in an individual? I think we have CEOs that are, struggling with this disease and they haven't been treated. So what mechanisms do they have maybe to adapt, and how can a person go on without being diagnosed?
I find a lot of adults do get diagnosed once they're bringing their children in for treatment. And then when you're doing a complete history, you're finding out, what were you like as a child? And it's a little tricky because you have to see these symptoms before age 12. But, you go back and speak to the grandparents, check for those old report cards back when teachers would handwrite in little comments, and you'll see, messy, daydreaming, doesn't do his homework,
It's me.
Yeah, me. And I'm intelligent.
Homework was the bane of my existence.
But you guys are highly successful.
Goodness.
Everybody here has MDs and PhDs, and you were able to do it. However, with your own coping mechanism that you developed and your own intelligence, and like you said, that turning on music is a coping mechanism that you developed, and shutting out distractions was something that you developed for yourself. It doesn't mean you have ADHD.
Well, I'm curious to know, and I don't know if I'm, kind of talking about something that we talked about earlier, but some of the symptoms that you just brought up as far as the adults, especially relationship, you said, you mentioned the word lazy. Well, no, I had that I was thinking lazy, but some of the things that you were mentioning, someone can perceive it as being lazy, being, what's the word? Procrastinator, so how do you distinguish what's a medical condition and what is that person's personality? If that's a question.
And I think that comes down to, again, functioning.
Yes.
Gotcha.
If you're seeing these symptoms that are interfering with functioning in two different areas, go for an evaluation. Is it like, let's talk about relationships.
Sure.
Sometimes you'll hear, spouses, if someone's undiagnosed, saying, like you said, that the person is lazy. They have a hard time doing the chores. The one spouse feels like, hey, I'm the parent. I feel like I'm picking up all the chores and you're not doing anything. Or, friends, a friend relationship. You were making appointments each weekend and you're like a half hour late, But it's not that they don't want to get there on time, or that they're lying, or they're not putting in the effort. If they truly have ADHD, it's that they're distracted, or they have a hard time, prioritizing and carrying out those mundane tasks of what it entails to do the laundry. And I think this is a good point to talk about this phenomenon called hyperfocus. And parents say this to me a lot when we're talking about ADHD. They're like, yeah, he can't do his homework, but he can play video games for 8 hours, no problem. Can't even see me when I walk in the room. Doesn't even want food. It's just and I've seen this. Attention, people with ADHD can have super hyper-focus attention. It's kind of like tunnel vision. They block out everything. If it's something extremely interesting, it's like their alertness level gets kind of locked in.
So that's interesting. I mean, again, as going back to the example, we have super high functioning people, right, in positions of power in the country that are probably walking around with this disorder, and yet being, untreated, but they can sit down, and this is why they made it that far, because they can, when it comes to maybe business or being the head of a state, they can sit down and focus when it comes time to do these type of things because they have interest in it or they have some sort of stake in it, but then otherwise things fall apart, such as the relationships, and they have difficulty in other areas. So how do we address those things? That's a challenging question, I know.
Yes, I was discussing this with one of the externs that I'm working with. She was saying, I think maybe my husband has it. He's really high functioning, but, out at home, not so, and like maybe his office, not so, but he's able to get stuff done. He's really bright. Maybe he could be doing better. But I think there's a stigma also to labeling ADHD, and also people maybe don't want to admit it to themselves, or they're scared, like there's something wrong with me, like I can function, but like my desk is a mess, or I have a hard time meeting deadlines, or I'm procrastinating, but I don't want to share it because there's a stigma, or I'm scared, or there's something wrong with me, and so then it's undiagnosed, and then you have the spouse wondering, wow, is it that they're not really interested in me, or they're not listening to me, and so it can be, pretty problematic.
And now let's shift the conversation to treatment. Now, this is where things get, I think, pretty controversial. Because, you have people out there that debate whether or not this is a true disorder, but I think it's pretty evident when we look at some case studies where people have, as you said, lost jobs. They can't hold a job, or they can't, reach their potential because of these limitations. But then when we talk about treatment, and this is something that has been pretty evident in the news media, the use of certain medications to address this issue, and even people that don't have this disorder using this medication to, achieve certain things. So when do you consider pharmacologic or medication as therapy for these individuals?
Well, you'd need to do a full evaluation, but before I go into that, I just want to say, I know a lot of people think ADHD that is not real, but, I have to say it's recognized by the Center for Disease Control, the National Institute of Health, U.S. Congress. There are stipulations, so you have civil rights to protect against this ADHD because it can be disabling. Department of Education recognizes it. So Office of Civil Rights, American Medical Association, American Psychological Association, lots of professionals do recognize it. But I still believe there are a lot of people out there who are suspicious or question whether it really exists. So medications. The medications affect, they're primarily stimulants, methylphenidate and amphetamines, and I'll tell you just a few of the more common ones, but they interact with chemicals in your brain, and dopamine and norepinephrine, as far as what we know now. None of this is completely definitive. So the dopamine helps kind of decrease the signals that are interfering, and the norepinephrine kind of helps to increase the signals that you want.
Yes.
So they work. I've seen it. It takes about 15, 20 minutes for a medication to kind of get into someone's system. And, I'm going to tell you about one young man in particular later on, but, I've seen it work. But it'll probably help many people, even if they don't have ADHD, because it kind of, makes that alertness, it kind of kicks in kind of like coffee, but not really. Do you know what I mean?
And just to add to that, because, and I guess, I want to get the right information out there. One thing is that we do, and we're going to say this again because we said it earlier, individuals out there, you think you might have some of the things that we've been talking about going on, some of the signs and symptoms, you might have ADHD, then you need to be evaluated by a professional. And we don't condone seeking out these medications or using these medications without being under the supervision of a licensed clinician or a licensed clinical psychologist or a physician. So we had to get that out there.
Definitely not, because with ADHD you have a deficit of these neurotransmitters, but in the average public you don't.
Exactly.
So if you take the medication, you could have opposite effect.
Well, you can't.
It could be dangerous, potentially dangerous.
You can't take those medications unless you get a prescription from a pharmacist, unless you order it over the internet. What are you saying?
But people have ways.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to get it out there that we advocate going to be evaluated by a medical professional before using these medications. That's
definitely
basically.
You need a thorough history, medical, because lots of medical conditions could be bringing up these sorts of symptoms. Family history, and for children especially, you want to get information from the teachers. from the pediatrician. It's a process. There's no simple little test for ADHD. It's taking a history, it's clinical judgment, and then it's everybody being on board to try the different things that we're going to do.
And I think that's the thing is that what Dr. Lisonics is saying is that she's seen it work for individuals, and there are people that use the medication, sometimes under the guidance of a clinician of some sort, and there are individuals that use it without having that approval or prescription. But it has been shown to help individuals focus and, in terms of being hyperactive, bring that activity down, help individuals with attention deficits, that sort of stuff. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our last break for the evening. Remember, you can call us at 212-650-6903 if you have any burning questions, comments, or concerns. That's 212-650-6903. This is your last chance. We will be right back after a short break. Stay with us.
WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
You are a waste. A loser. Everyone hates you. Why don't you just stay in your car and keep driving? I'm serious. Drive until you run out of gas, then get out of your car and walk until you find someone who doesn't think you're dumber than bricks. Could take a while, but at least all that walking might burn a couple of calories.
You may not witness bullying like this every day. Your kids do. They want to help, but they don't know how. Visit stopbullying.gov to learn safe, simple ways your child can help stop bullying. Be more than a bystander at stopbullying.gov. A message from the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Vinny B of the Vinny B Showcase. Tune in every Thursday from 8 to 12 midnight for some solid cultural roots music and some sweet lovers rock. Also, informative interviews and giveaways. Right here on the Vinny B Showcase every Thursday, 8 through 12 midnight on WHCR 90.3 FM. Peace.
WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Health in Harlem. I'm Maurice Selby.
Shivers.
And you're listening to Health in Harlem on WHCR 90.3 FM New York. Tonight we have with us Dr. Darina Lisonics. She is a clinical psychologist and a supervising psychologist at Harlem Hospital Center, and we are talking about ADHD tonight. Now, back to our conversation, as we are trying to get a lot in there in this last 10 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. So we were talking about therapy for ADHD, and we left off talking about some of the medications. Methylphenidate is one of them that you mentioned, and that one is actually Ritalin, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's Ritalin. And the other, if you could refresh my memory.
Amphetamines?
Amphetamines, yes.
Adderall?
Yes.
And Vyvanse?
And when we talk about using these medications, so let's get into the benefits. And we talked about that briefly, but if you can expound on that a little bit more.
Okay, so they increase the neurotransmitters that we're looking at here, dopamine and norepinephrine, which help you pay more attention to the things you want to. You have control over this, and they kind of help shelter or move away the distractions that you don't want, okay, that are interfering. The medicines don't cure the ADHD. They just control the symptoms. And when the symptoms are controlled, you're able to pay attention and focus and learn coping skills and ways to manage the symptoms, like making to-do lists, color coding your notebooks according to subject. What else? Taping reminders around your environment. And now a lot of people are setting alarms on their phone, things like that. So you want the medicines to kind of help you pay attention and focus, and then you can learn different coping skills also, so it's not all about meds. You also can go to therapy and help with social skills training and planning and life coaches can help too with those kinds of skills. But the other thing about the medication is these medications for ADHD just stay in your body for the day. You know, they do go in, they do have side effects, and we can talk about that. Some people don't have any side effects, but some do. But if you have side effects, if the parent wants to stop the medication, you can stop in consulting with your doctor who's prescribing them. But the side effects go away when the medication stops. And the side effects are typically like decreased appetite, maybe some sleep issues, sometimes some irritability at the end of the day. But they don't linger once you stop the medications.
Now, I don't know if you mentioned this earlier or not, but if you are a child who's diagnosed with this condition and you're taking the medication, I don't know if I can use the word cure, but at some point, will the child be able to come off the medications and be able to live live their life?
Yes, definitely, and I've seen that happen too. The symptoms tend to, although it's a chronic condition, they tend to, especially the hyperactivity kind of things, dissipate or get lesser as you mature. And like we talked about, prefrontal cortex developing, our executive functioning, so we're doing better. We might have a little bit of problem with distraction and things like that. Some people can get off the medication. Some can't, depending on what career path they choose. Like say if you're going into a really intense graduate program or something where you really need to focus, and you might still need some medication for help with that.
Do people ever become desensitized to the medication? Like if they keep taking it for so long, let's say you're diagnosed at like the age of 11, like if you continue to take it every day, do you ever become, desensitized? You have to move up in medication? Like how does that work?
That can happen, and you work really closely with the person who's prescribing the medications, and at least on a monthly basis, more when you first start. But over years, you can become a little desensitized to the medication, maybe a little bit more, or maybe at some point need something else.
Okay.
Wow. And just in terms of other factors that could affect this, now what if you have a tandem, like parent and child undergoing treatment? How does that work? And can they sort of support one another, or how do you maybe coach maybe couples or anyone that's dealing with it in concert with another individual?
I guess,
because I figure that could be tough. You might have one person who, for whatever reason, depending on the environment, or if they didn't refill their medication, they're a little hyperactive, and can that affect the other individual and vice versa?
Definitely, and I think that's where education and being honest and open with the people in your lives is really important. None of us are perfect. We all have things going on, physical, mental, just financial stuff's going on. So let's be honest if you're struggling. But if you don't know and you're having these relationship issues, and it comes up in couples therapy that, the spouse is inattentive, but then with the history you find that maybe they have had these symptoms since before the age of 12, it can help the relationship, because then the spouse who doesn't have the symptoms doesn't take it so personally. It's not about me. It's not that they're not interested in me. And so now that I know, I can work with this person and, help them break down the chores and not just get angry and feel like, they're not helping out or doing their part.
Got it. Alrighty. So as we begin to wrap up the show, what would you say is the most important message that our listening audience should take home tonight regarding ADHD?
Well, I guess there's a lot of most important. I can't just say one. And I was talking to one of my patients the other day, 16, and she was like, I want everyone to know that ADHD doesn't mean you're hyper. She's like, I'm 16, and my friends will say, you don't have ADHD. You don't run around. She's like, I'm inattentive. I can't pay attention. I feel like falling asleep in class, and I can't even stay alert enough to write my notes. So I wanted to put that out there, and also that just because you take medication doesn't mean you're crazy. That's what a lot of kids are concerned with. And one of my patients just said, yesterday, she's like, if you have a headache, you take Adderall or Tylenol, you take medication. Doesn't mean you're crazy. I can't focus. I take medication. So I was destigmatizing it. What else is really important? I think that's really the most important. And the key is just detection and then treatment, and you can improve and learn skills and live like a happy, normal, satisfied life. Just go seek, some professional.
And for an individual that would like to, if they maybe heard some of the signs and symptoms tonight, or they felt like they've had an issue with this, who can they reach out to, or is there a number that they can call at Harlem Hospital to maybe seek out help? professional help?
There is, and there's a lot of resources on the internet. So if you're hearing this, you're thinking, hey, maybe this is me, maybe I want to take a look at it. There's something called CHADD, C-H-A-D-D, and you can find it on the internet. They might have some self-tests or just some more information articles you can take a look at. And then I also really like about.com, A-B-O-U-T.com, and then you just search ADD, ADHD, and get a little more information. But if you don't want to do that, you can just give us a call. We have 3 different departments where we can help you at Harlem Hospital. In adult outpatient psychiatry, you can call 212-939-8491 or 3210. And what you'd want to ask is for an intake appointment. If you're 18 or under, you could call Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, which is where I am. That's 212-939-3368.
Excellent.
And again, you're asking for an intake appointment. And it doesn't hurt. All it is coming in, meeting with us 1 or 2 times, going over history and seeing, getting some collateral information. And then if you don't have ADHD, then you can relax and,
and move on. And again, as we talked about earlier, implement other strategies to maybe help that individual out, whether it's closing the windows, turning on beautiful chamber music, as Brother Smiley said.
Chamber music.
Yeah, man. I don't know if I could do the chamber music. Chamber music's cool at times. But yes, that sounds like a plan. And ladies and gentlemen, Harlem Hospital is there for you. Tons of resources, and you have Dr. Lasonics there, a very passionate individual, professional that's willing to help address this issue, and especially for children, because as we said, that this could drastically impact their performance on school, their relationships growing up, and we want to get them started off on the right foot. That's for sure. Yes.
There's one other thing. We have a new special program at Harlem Hospital for young adults, age 18 to 24. And a lot of people are getting diagnosed in college, or just need help in other issues that are coming up in college. So also know we're there. So if you're a young adult, you'll be seen by different professionals. You can call the same number to make an intake, but you'll be in the young adult program. And I think it's really super that we have that.
That's what's up. All righty. And we want to thank you very much, Dr. Lasonics, for joining us tonight. It was a pleasure having you, and we look forward to doing this again at some point in the near future, maybe. And also, I want to thank my man Sean Shivers and Ayana Cole.
Hey, and I want to thank you, my brother. You know what? I don't know who's going to be our guest next week.
Oh, no. Next week
That's all right.
That's okay, but we will have a show.
But we will have a show, but I just want to let everybody know, just to remind you, every Fridays, we have the Farmers Market at Harlem Hospital Center. So please come out, please come around for your fresh fruits, vegetables. The other day I saw they had cider out there.
Oh, word?
Yeah. Pretty soon they're going to be having... we're going to be having some tableside cookery where we actually going to take some of the products out there and do some
demonstrations and stuff?
Some demonstration out there.
Nice.
But again, the Farmers Market at Harlem Hospital Center is every Friday, and they begin at 9 o'clock up until 4. And they take everything from cash, EBT,
debit, WIC, which is important. Yeah, they take everything. Cash.
Please come out and support. Thank you very much.
That sounds like a plan, man. I got to make it up there. Now that you said cider, I got to put that on my agenda. Come up and get some Harlem Hospital fresh apple cider from the the farmers market. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. We want to thank our callers also, Brother Smiley and Valerie Wright, for calling in, asking questions, and leading us to new directions in the conversation. And ladies and gentlemen, tune in next week, as Sean said, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Health in Harlem. This show is dedicated to the memory of Miss Gloria Thomas. Harlem, take care of yourself.
There's suffering and pain. Children are dying. We've got to take a stand against inhumanity. The woman, child, and man.
War and destruction continue to escalate. A worldwide epidemic of ignorance and hate has infected people of all faiths and colors, poison them against their sisters and brothers, yes.
That is not the way that it's supposed to be. No, no. We were meant to live in peace and harmony. There are so many old wounds and scars keeping us apart. It's time
foolish pride. But pain is a sickness that is hard to cover, and it's the reason we mistreat each other, yeah.
That is not the way that it's supposed to be. Oh no. We were meant to live in peace and harmony.
Yes, peace and harmony is what we're all about. It's WHCR 90.3 FM. You're going to listen to the Vinny B Showcase now, but I want to get some people involved. They're not even paying me no money anyway. It's 8:02 right now, and hey, you're tuned to WHCR 90.3 FM, WHCR.org, and the web.
WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
With love in your eyes, you got to be conscious, you got to be righteous. Can't you see the sign of the time we're living in? Got to use it, yeah. Every day. It's what we need today. Whoa. We got to use it, yeah. Every day. It's what we need today. Yeah. Wisdom and knowledge will guide you through. Don't you be the devil tool. No. You can't guide a people without a vision. You shall surely go astray. We got to use it, yeah. Every day. That's what we need today. Oh, we got to use it, yeah. Every day. That's what we need today. Oh, wisdom. Whoa. All right now. Oh, wisdom. The Bible can teach you wisdom, whether you wise or you dumb. An elder can teach you wisdom, whether you're old or you're young. Oh, wisdom, oh, wisdom, oh, wisdom. Only a fool trust in his own eyes and disregard correction. You got to be humble, free from anger, and your days shall be low. You gotta use every day. It's what we need today. We gotta use it, yeah. Every day. It's what we need today. Oh, wisdom. Whoa. All right now. Oh, wisdom. Hey.
Fellow citizens of Africa, I greet you in the name of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League of the World. As you are aware, the world in which we live today is divided into separate race groups and distinct nationalities. Each race and each nationality is endeavoring to work out its own destiny to the exclusion of other races and other nationalities. We hear the cry of England for the Englishman, of France for the Frenchman, of Germany for the German, of Ireland for the Irish, of Palestine for the Jew, of Japan for the Japanese, of China for the Chinese. We of the Universal Negro Movement Association are raising the cry of Africa for the Africans, those at home and those abroad. The great problem of the Negro for the last 500 years has been that of disunity. No one or no organization ever succeeded in uniting the Negro race.
Was done for 300 years, the bodies of men. You can shackle the hands of men, you can shackle the feet of men, you can imprison the bodies of men, but you cannot shackle or imprison the minds of men. Turn them down, turn them down. Words from Marcus Messiah, Gabby. Words, sound and power, power. They do not know what we are capable of. They do not know what we are thinking. They're thinking in terms of dreadnoughts, battleships, aeroplanes, submarines. You know what we're thinking about? That is our own private business. Turn them down. Turn them down. Words from Marcus Messiah Gabby. Words, sound and power, power. Black men of Carthage, black men of Ethiopia, Timbuktu, Alexandria gave the light of civilization to this world. Ethiopia shall stretch forth her hands unto God, and princes shall come out of Egypt. Because classes, nations, races have been quite for over 4 centuries. Who was merely born of youth, insult, humiliation, whose forbearance can only be compared to the prophet Job, as likewise lifted his bowed head and raised it up to God's skies and cried out, I am a man, and demand a man's chance and a man's treatment in this world. But I shall teach the black man to see beauty in his own kind and stop bleaching his skin and otherwise looking like what he's not. African freedom, African freedom. Turn them down, turn them down. God made man Lord of his creation, gave him possession and ownership of the world. And you have been so darn lazy that you've allowed the other fellow to run away with the whole world, and now he's bluffing you and telling you that the world belongs to him and that you have no part in it. I don't have to apologize to anybody for being black, because God Almighty knew exactly what he was doing when he made me black. If black people knew their glorious past, then they would be more inclined to respect themselves. Yes, you heard of Johnny Walker Red and black. Well, he had his adversities, but he's still going strong. Well, I intend with your help and God's grace to continue, because my work has only just begun. And future generations shall have in their hands the guide by which they shall know the sins of the 20th century. I know, and I know you too believe in time, but we shall wait patiently for 200 years if need be to face our enemies through our posterity. When my enemies are satisfied, in life I shall come back, or in death even to serve you as I served before. In life I shall be the same, in death I shall be a terror to the foes. Teach them, Gavi, teach them. Tell them, Gavi, tell them. Warn them, Gavi, warn them. Chant them down. Chant them down. Gavi, Mosiah, Gavi. If death has power, then come to me to be the real Marcus Garvey I would like to be. If I may come in an earthquake or a plague or a pestilence, or as God would have me, then be assured that I shall never desert you and make your enemies triumph over you. we just then begin. For I shall live in the physical or the spiritual to see the day of Africa's glory. When I am dead, wrap the mantle of the red, the black and the green around me. For in the new life I shall rise up first with God's wisdom blessing. To lead the millions of the heights and the triumph that you well know. Look for me in a world when there is storm. Look for me all around you. For with God's grace I shall come back with countless millions of black men and women who have died in America, those who have died in the West Indies, and those who have died in Africa, to aid you in the fight for liberty, freedom, and life.
African freedom, African freedom and liberty. Chant them down, chant them down. Yahweh, Yahweh, Messiah, Yahweh. Chant them down, 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 down.
Our great scholars having passed through the colleges and universities have thrown away the blessed record. Babylon did it. Assyria did it. France under Napoleon did it. Germany under Prince von Bismarck did it. England under America under George Washington did it. Africa with 400 million black people can do it. If you cannot do it, if you are not prepared to do it, then you will die. You race of cowards, you race of imbeciles, you race of good for nothing. If you cannot do what other men have done, what other nations have done, what other races have done,